Good day and welcome to the CNBC In Conversation with myself, Zanele Morrison. When we talk about legendary South African brands, there are a few that hold cultural, commercial, and emotional weight. And right at the top of that is Black Like Me, a name that didn't just sell hair care, it sold pride, it sold identity, it sold the possibility at the time when very few doors were open to Black entrepreneurs. This year marks an incredible 40 years since the brand was founded in 1984. Born from a 30,000 Rand loan charged at prime, which was around 21%, plus 10%, it wasn't just a risk, it was a masterclass in vision, in grit, and in pride. And just 7 months later, that loan was paid off in full. But behind the story is a couple who did more than build a business. They built a legacy from that first spark of entrepreneurial curiosity. Let's unpack the force for black hair. In the studio with me to tell the story in person is Herman and Connie Mashaba, the original couple. It's such an honor to have you in studio. And Herman, I want to go back to that very first job that you had. How long were you employed for? You went into the business and you did remarkable work, but at some point you thought, no, I'm not going to continue doing this for someone else. I'm going to do it for myself. What was that hair care brand and what was that journey at the beginning?
Well, obviously it started after my university studies were disrupted, and then worked for a salary in my life for 30 months, 2 companies, one for 7 months, another one for 23 months. And in that process, when I turned 22, that's when I realized, Herman, you're getting old, and your grandfather said you've got to succeed in life and you've got to be independent. That's when the spark really happened for me to take control and in charge of my own personal life. And but before getting married, I thought, let me stabilize my life, and that's when I proposed to Connie that let's first get married before I buy a car, because I want to buy a car so that I'll be able to go out there and be a trader. And fortunately enough, at the age of 20, she accepted my proposal. Everything else is history.
And I think it's the leadership story. When I do my leadership work and we tell stories, because the stories shape us, yes, right? Our stories shape us and our foundation shape us. And the two of you have come together. You have your story, Connie. It's not often, but what is the story that opened you up to be part of a union like this, not only in marriage, but in business?
You know, with Herman, he can sell anything. So he sold me his idea. So I used to work for Southern Sons head office and as a junior bookkeeper. And I knew that he was selling. And I remember the one sales area that he really failed on is the insurance. So he said to me, I'm going to do insurance. For 3 months, he was never paid that money, because he couldn't sell the insurance. So anyway, I supported him in those three months, and then he got into this hair care product that he was selling. And a few months down the line, he said to me, you know what, this is what I want to do. And obviously me being skeptical, because I want someone, I wanted stability, sustainability, making sure that you have a salary every month. And he did it, and he said, no, I'm gonna do it. And I thought, okay, that's fine, do it. And then he said, would you like to come and do the administrative work because of your experience? So I said, no, I'll come. How much are you going to pay me? He says, no, we can only afford 400 Rand, because I was earning 800 Rand at the time. But I looked at it, from the long-term, point of view, because I could have said, you know what, I'm happy in Sandton, I'm winning, where I'm having this salary, and I'm enjoying, the view of Sandton City. But I had to go to Harangua, where we didn't have a phone, we didn't have infrastructure. We were in a small office with no furniture, nothing. But for me, it was about the future of our business. I knew that we were going to make it, and it was the 4 of us, him, the other salesperson, and the chemist, and myself. So most of the time, I was left in the office all by myself. And we had a car phone, because we didn't have a phone infrastructure in that area. So we had a car phone. So the car was parked outside, and each time it rings, I would run to the car and do orders and do whatever. And we lived like that for almost 6 months. But for me, it was just a pride. I mean, when the name of Black Like Me came, we all debated that name and said, what does it mean? What does it mean? We had to research that name of this guy who called himself Black Like Me. And we said, for us, it's about Black pride, because everywhere where they were going, they were so received by the salons. I think we're very grateful to South African salons and women of that time, because had it not been of them believing in our product, I don't think we'd be where we are today.
Absolutely. Yeah. But there was a sense also about Herman, about being able to spot opportunities. And I want to go back to, you worked for a hair care product for a couple of months, and you did exceptionally well. When we talk to entrepreneurs today, and I'm hoping that a lot of entrepreneurs are watching, is you were able to test your muscle and learn firsthand how this industry worked before you ventured out. And that's something that today is not often easy to access. But would you advise and say, look, if you weren't in the hair care space, selling it and seeing and understanding the market, you would not have given birth to this particular initiative?
Well, it's actually one of the biggest challenges that our democratic dispensation has failed to do, because, to be honest with you, when ANC took over, I expected to see an explosion of Black entrepreneurship, because, as you can imagine, we started at the time when we were a state of emergency. We had to. You can imagine, I was the owner of a haircare business selling products all over the country. I had to carry the reference book, ducking and diving, negotiating to be arrested by the apartheid police, because I was not allowed to be at a particular place. As you can imagine, as a owner of the business, I had an opportunity as part of my sales adventure when I started becoming a trader. I sold a brand called Kale on a commission basis for 19 months. And with the growth, and to put Kale, there's the #1 brand in the country in the 19 months. But I decided, no, I'm not. I felt vulnerable to say, looking at how us as Black people were treated at the time, never appreciated, and said, no, man. This industry is there forever. Why can't I do it myself? And I conceived the idea and started, obviously, really looking at the possibilities. And Joseph and I, we were traders selling, but we did not have the technical know-how. The only way we could get this technical know-how, we identified Johan Grill, an Afrikaner from Boksburg, who was working as a production manager. We had to take a chance. Those days, to talk to a white person was literally like treacherous. But we said to Joseph, we've got no choice. Let's speak to this guy, knowing that in the event he's not interested and report us to the owners, they might obviously cut us off immediately. And at the time, commission-wise, I was earning 4,000 rands a month and growing literally every month. But I was prepared to sacrifice that, because I'm a trader, I'm a chance taker. Because I always look at the positive in life. Because I said to myself, if I don't talk to this white Afrikaner, I'm going to live a life where someone is going to be in charge of my life, and I want to be in charge. So let me take a chance. And it worked out that Johan bought, and he said, I don't have the money. We said, no, leave it to Joseph and I. Joseph and I then approached successful black businessman called Walter Dube in Mabopane. Through his wife, her wife was the client for us. We said, Mrs. Dube, can you introduce us to Mr. Dube? We've actually identified a machine to legally print money. We want to present this proposal to him. And luckily, Mrs. Dube organized us to meet the husband. And when we presented our project to Mr. Dube, both of us, Joseph and I, had our commission statements on a monthly basis showing how fast this industry was growing. And we said, we've got someone who can make the stuff for us. And Walter Dube, obviously we were still young. I was under 25 at the time, and Mr. Dube said, look, who are these guys? He says, guys, I'm happy, I like what you're doing, but I can get you a loan. How much do you want? We said, we worked it out. We want 30,000 rands to start this. But he says, look, I can do it at prime. And prime in January 1985 was 21%. I want prime plus 10 plus 25% share in this business. I'm happy to help you. We said, Mr. Dube, where do we sign?
And Herman, therein lies a formula. Therein lies a formula. So the formula was you had the experience, you had the track record, you could show evidence that this could work. Secondly, you went to get the right people, which is not easy. You surrounded yourself by an expert with another salesperson. You had Connie. Today, when you talk to business people or entrepreneurs who are coming up, would you still recommend partnership? Would you still recommend share the pie, instead of 100% ownership? Because you already at the time were free to share and only have, you must have ended up with 25%.
Well, look, one thing I've learned throughout my life, even before I went into formal business as a Knoxman playing dice, growing up to support myself, I'm a strong believer that when you do a transaction, don't take advantage of the next person, whether that person is vulnerable or not. Do a deal that can work for both parties. For me, such deals are sustainable because everyone it's a winner. Whereas as I see and I come across business people who are greedy, they want 100% of nothing. They want 100% of nothing. Whereas in my case, and that's as a family, we are lucky. Here we are. Our business has been around, our regional business been around for 40 years, 40 years and 6 months already and growing. And we've got a lot of, lots of other investments in everything here in South Africa and other parts of the world. So I think now we are using my model of business of saying, look, I don't have at this point in time be the one to go and open factories and hire people, fire people. I'm beyond that. So we as a family, and I've given that responsibility to my wife and my daughter. They are the ones really looking after our family. We invest in potential of other people. That is what we do.
And before we unpack the investments, we spoke about the potential that lies in the black market, because there was potential. The solution was around the versatility and the complexity of black hair. I still don't think that we've reached a point of having every element of black hair care for every level. So there's a versatility in blackness that can also still be mined by entrepreneurs?
Absolutely, there's a lot. I think we're very, very fortunate as black women. Or even black men, because black men still have, some of them still have hair except Herman. The thing is you can wear anything. But the reason why we can wear anything is because we have this hair called 4C, 4 whatever, which is like very difficult to maintain. So obviously in that way, it gives us opportunity as entrepreneurs or as manufacturers to come up with ideas and say, how can I make their life better? I mean, you get up in the morning, you want to put on whether it's relaxed hair, whether it's permed hair, or whether it's your weave, whether it's your wig, and that's where the versatility comes in. And it's up to us to see, we need the solution to help this woman, to have this managed, beautiful hair every day that she can be proud of, So that's how we come in, and there's always a room for growth. And for coming up with new ideas. Every day we go to R&D, our R&D laboratories, to say, is there anything that you can do for this? We have ladies with hairline issues. We have ladies with alopecia. How can we solve their problem? So that's what we do all the time.
And I think, the one thing that people must understand, when you're in the hair care business for as long as we've been ourselves, there are other huge opportunities. The beauty market is not only hair. We need body lotions, we need you ladies are looking for lip-eyes, you're looking for makeup and so forth.
So that's what.
So this industry is huge, and I think that's something as a family that would want our grandchildren to still really be, not our children, our grandchildren, to still really be the players, not only in the hair care business space. They must be involved in the entire beauty space.
And this is what legacies are about. So you're a legacy. My producer made a very interesting comment, and now it's coming to mind, is that this legacy includes your wife. You know, how many business people do we see that along the journey, the first wife gets to, you know, leaves the home scenario, and then there's always a second wife, and the second wife. Family values, do you consider them important to building a legacy?
I think they're very important, and for me, I think one of the lessons that we sort of came up with, that we need to skill ourselves. I think in many instances when men are sort of successful, they let their wives stay at home and not skill themselves. They look after their kids, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I did that. I stayed home for about 4 years looking after the kids. But at the end of the day, I said to myself, how do I skill myself? How do I develop myself so that one day when he's not around, whether by choice or by chance or whatever, at least I'll be able to take care of my family. So that's what we need, you know, young women or just women to also not say, you know what, I've got all the monies, my husband is working. What do you do about yourself? Because in that way, even your kids will see that mommy is an important person in the bigger picture.
She's part of the system.
She's part of the system. So the important thing is to develop and skill yourself. And if I had not developed and skilled myself, when Herman went to politics, where would I be? I would be having someone running the family and not knowing what is happening. Now I can take over because I know I've developed myself. In fact, it was very interesting. Education for me is very important because it sort of liberates anyone, whether a man, a woman, a young people. That's why I invest in education of young people. So what I did, I'm a finance person. You know, I've got BCom and whatever. And then when I took over the business and I had to focus on marketing, and I thought to myself, you know, I've got marketing people, brand managers. They're coming up with all these jargons, which I don't understand because I come from the finance side. Guess what did I do? I went to marketing school. I did a diploma in marketing so that I can understand what I'm working with. Mm-hmm. And then over the years, I just went to Harvard to make sure that I skill myself. And finally, I decided, let me just do MBA to understand what this leadership is all about. So constantly educate and skill yourself as a person, not only as a woman, but everyone must do that if you are in business. Whether you are working for another company, skill yourself in that way. You are empowered to do what you can, and then you can see opportunities out there. So that is important, you know, to have these values of not one person doing the stuff, because, you know, you speak about legacy. If a husband is doing all these things and something happens to the husband, where would the legacy be?
Absolutely.
Because I would not know what to do if I was not empowered to do something. And businesses die. And businesses die. That's why it's important to also do that for the kids as well.
I'm really fortunate that I can now do this terrible job that doesn't pay me. But at the same time, I'm comfortable that my wife and my daughter are taking of the business side, because we need business to really be able to look after ourselves. And in the process, we're looking after. For me right now, it's actually pay back to society. But at the same time, if I did not really have a qualified wife, I would not have taken the chance of saying, you take over overnight. When I took that decision, I said, you take over, I'm out of here.
So we've been fortunate to work together for, you know, for 40 years. Over 40 years we've been working together.
But I'm loving the principles. I think there's so much to be talked about, because not only did you build Black Like Me, but you also understood the opportunity to build an ecosystem around Black Like Me. Yeah. You mastered, for me, the distribution process, the marketing process, the development process. You didn't have to do the investments around. Do you continue as a family to look at what else is building and growing around you and investing in the future of even other generations?
Absolutely. That our family business model overall, it's tailored around that. That's what my wife and her team does.
So what we do now, besides Black Like Me, we have a private equity fund. So what we do with that, we invest in different sectors and the growing sectors. And if someone is not doing well in the business and they're looking for investors, we go in and invest in the business. And one other thing that is very key is to make sure that we have a representative in that business so that we understand. And in that way, we grow the pie. Herman said something that when someone is going through difficulties, let's say in business, you don't say, I'm going to screw them. I mean, to use that word, but you say, what is the win-win situation? Because at the end of the day, whatever you do, you've got to make sure that there's sustainability, there's a long-term view. You know, sometimes we go into the business and we want those profits and go. You know, we want to sleep at night to say, this is what we've done, and we've done it legitimately, and we've done it for the benefit of whoever that we are doing business with.
And
Yes.
I think I just really want to really caution a lot of, particularly our black youth, because of the terrible economic policies that ANC pursued post 1994 of thinking that the government will do it for you, you know. And someone comes to us to say, I've got an idea, I'm an entrepreneur, I want to create employment. I said, what nonsense is this? You don't go into business to employ other people.
Yeah.
If you want to employ people, go into business where you make money, where you print money. Because in the process, you will employ people, because you can't really do it on your own. But now you have this mentality where it's been ingrained in people that to be a businessman, you must employ people. Yes, the employment of the employment of people is a byproduct. Because if I'm running a business and I'm losing money, there's no way I'm going to employ people. In fact, I'm a very strong believer that if you run a business and your business go bust because of your following wrong policies, honestly, you're doing injustice to people, because a lot of people are not entrepreneurs. They are good managers, they are good employees, but they expect you as a leader to look after them, run a business that makes money every year, where they can see salary, they can see growth, they can see training and so forth.
I think government is definitely is trying to encourage entrepreneurship, but the issue is not everyone is an entrepreneur. So for me, I always advise the emerging entrepreneurs to say, you know what, first of all, you've got to know what is it that you want, not because someone is doing it. What problem are you solving? Because you need to solve a problem. Yes, I mean, like in haircare, there's so many, you know, not Black Like Me or any other brand can satisfy the whole market. So that is why we have so many businesses coming up. But what happens is then, you know, there's this incubation hubs and what have you, where they teach these entrepreneurs to do this and that, and then they teach them how to do stuff. And then some of them are saying, you know what, I'm a black woman. Government says they give black women 30% or 40% of something else. And I say, okay, do you have that funding? No, I don't have funding, but because I'm a black woman, I'll get funding. And I said, when did you get that? So I've got this young woman who's been, for 4 years, she's been trying to get government funding. And I said to her, do you want me to invest in your business? Yes, but by funding. I said, I don't fund, I invest. I want equity in your business. So she says, no, Sis Connie, I want 100%. I don't want any investor, because I've worked so hard with my innovation, so this is me. Guess what? Even today, she's got nothing. So I think if we can understand that we might be entrepreneurs, we might be creative, but someone has to come in with funding. Someone has to come in with administrative. So we need to think about partnership in anything that we do if you really want to grow together. Because as an individual, you are limited. So that's what we believe in. We believe in partnership, and it has worked for us. And the only way you can have that partnership is also be truthful of how you get into the business. Because sometimes, and be trustworthy and be dependable. Because most of the people are, so it's all about money, but not about the future. So look at the long-term benefits of it.
And without doing your research, you won't know that a lot of the industries we see around us now were based on relationships and partnerships and friendships, based on trust. So it continues to be a very important principle. So thank you for bringing it up. But Herman, another tough one is the tenderpreneur space, where the government, yes, is focusing on empowering black business to be able to get into sectors and to do. But what we're not seeing is those tenders turn turning black people into entrepreneurs that are building industries, building factories, and sustaining themselves along a particular path. What is your thought on what we're getting wrong in that space?
Well, unfortunately, NCBB has been one of the biggest failures of democratic dispensation, because when they conceived the idea of broad-based, they had other ideas than what some of us actually thought. Because if you look at people running business, government coming out with these policies, they've never run anything in their lives. They've got absolutely no clue whatsoever about going to Mr. Dube to go and ask for a loan. They don't know how to run around, do 10,000 kilometers a month. For 15 odd years when I started Black Like Me, she knows. I would leave home on Monday, come back Friday, to keep contact over the phone. That's why I needed her to really be there at the factory, because 50. I was doing +1 10. My car had to be serviced every month to be able to really understand what I was dealing. Establishing black distributors in the townships from everywhere, Polokwane, Gugule to everywhere, East London and so forth. So I used to do a lot of traveling, meeting the salons. Every time I established a black distributor in a particular area, I spent time with them to market, so that I create a market for them. So it really required a lot of sacrifice, a lot of traveling. So unfortunately, people just all of a sudden, they said, you get a tender to build a road. You've never worked in a construction company in your life. And that's why people fail, because then, and also the only way you get the tender, you've got to really grease the politicians. And that alone, immediately, it's a wrong beginning. And I honestly believe, as South Africans, if we need to really succeed, we need to really do, as a matter of agency, do away with this triple BE. But however, we as a family, we believe very strongly in the transformation of our economy. Black people need to be part of this economy, but we need a new policy that can address the ordinary guy in Haramudzi village, also my family in Soweto, to touch that guy who's not politically connected. We get funding for them. They don't have to get expensive funding that I've got. What we do is let's tax the companies to take over this burden of BE compliance companies. We leave it between the business and the auditing firm. Let them contribute a certain percentage of their profits to this fund. And this fund must go and fund black entrepreneurs with ideas and knowledge of what they're doing. Let's go and invest in education. It is my wish and dream that one day we must have a public school in Soweto and Sandton having the same infrastructure.
To sit here today, 40 years in January this year for Black Like Me, we should be having this conversation with a couple of other legacy businesses that have come out after democracy. But unfortunately, we're going to rely on you to help not only to shape it from a government perspective, but also to influence SMEs coming up on how to do it themselves. And I want to say thank you so much for your time. I see my producer also wrote the original couple. I don't know what that means, but the original business couple, Herman and Connie Mashaba.
He's very kind.
Yeah, he's very kind. 41 years in business. Thank you so much for spending the time with myself, Zanele Morrison, in Conversation. Take care.